Hello again, and welcome to Adventures in Book Hunting. I believe this is episode 6. Um, Subject of today's video is the Raleigh County Public Library Main Branch Book Sale, which went on this past week. I got an opportunity to go midweek and was able to find a number of interesting books. I have been going to the sale for several years. Um, uh, And in times past, predominantly I was looking for books for my own collection. Um, I remember one year I got 17 books and was commenting to a friend that the sale had been very disappointing because I only got 17 books. And this friend thought, that's a lot of books to be disappointed in. But in any event, back in those days, I was predominantly, once again, collecting from my own library, my own accumulation of books, and only two or three would go someplace else. Um, uh, Over the years, leading up to this year, um, going to the library sale, I had a completely different goal in mind. Um, this year's sale, I got 16 books, and I will uh, show you each of those here in a second. But the ratio is somewhat reversed. Uh, Out of the books that I got at the sale this week, three will stay with me, um, at least temporarily, and the remainder, I believe all, except perhaps one, will go to the Hatter Bookshop. And of course, I've mentioned the Hatter Bookshop several times in previous videos. The Hatter Bookshop is a independently owned, predominantly used bookstore in Princeton, West Virginia. Um, I've been a customer and a good friend to the store for many years. Uh, And as life changed, my relationship to the store changed. For many years, the store was a source for books for me, and I donated many books, but predominantly the premise was I was going there to buy books or trade for books. Um, and now, as I have a whole different outlook on books and book collecting, I've been reducing the size of my collection. And so now I'm a supplier of books much, much more than I am a purchaser of books. But in any event, went to the sale, and I think I found some interesting things for the store. And as I said, a couple of interesting things for me. First off, and don't be too intimidated. 16 books, but I'm about to take care of five of them in one fell swoop. Hmm. Um, I was able to find five books by Pat Conroy. Pat Conroy is probably most famous for Here on Top, Prince of Tides, and probably Beach Music, probably his two most popular works. Oh, along with The Great Santini, that's a fairly popular book. Um, Pat Conroy has passed on some years ago, but his books are still quite popular, and for good reason. He's a very eloquent writer. In my mind, one of the best modern Southern writers in American literature. Um, these will all be going to the bookshop, except for this one, which I will keep temporarily. Uh, I intend to have a buddy read, a read along of My Losing Season by Pat Conroy, hopefully sometime soon. My current buddy read is another book, but I'm hoping that it won't be too long before I can dive into Pat Conroy. The only Pat Conroy book I've ever read before is The Great Santini, the story of a Marine jet fighter pilot. Um, Very, very interesting read. And eventually I need to probably, or I'd like to read at least The Prince of Tides and Beach Music. Um, Beach Music. uh, but even though I'm reading a whole lot more than I was a short time ago, still going to be a while before I get to those. A lot of other things I want to read in the meantime. But so this one will be with me just for a short time. It will eventually be at the bookstore, and these others will be available very quickly within the next few days. So be sure if you're interested in any of those, visit the store or visit them online. they'd be glad to provide you with some good reading. Um, the next one I found is a classic, uh, Sir Sir Richard Burton's translation of the Arabian Nights, the stories of Scheherazade, and just wonderful, wonderful stories. I already have a copy myself. I have this very good uh, modern library edition. I found this good signet, and hopefully the store will be interested in this. The Arabian Nights, it's the source of many of the stories we're going to be familiar with from uh, Arabic culture. Genie and the Lamp, Alibaba and the Thieves. In any event, premise being that a an Arabian prince is in the habit of killing his brides on his wedding night, and Scheherazade, his current wife, saves herself by telling him stories for 1,000 nights, getting to a cliffhanger, basically, and then refusing to continue until the following day, and thus eventually causes him to fall in love with her and to spare her life. But yes, just a rich, rich body of literature. Aladdin and the Lamp, which of course has been adapted many times. Um, Sinbad, Sinbad the Sailor, has its origins in these stories. Like I said, just a very good read. Once again, going to the bookstore. Next, I found a very nice copy of Watership Down by Richard Adams. I've read several Richard Adams, including Watership Down. This is his most popular book. Richard Adams writes stories about anthropomorphic animals. Um, my favorite by him is a book called Traveler. It's the story of the Civil War as told by the general's horses. And specifically, the narrator of the story is Robert E. Lee's main horse, Traveler. But he writes very well. This is probably my wife's favorite book by him. In fact, I know it's her favorite book by him. But whenever I find it, I I snag it, get it to the store because it's very popular. In fact, I've upgraded my copy of Watership Down multiple times through the bookstore. Just the nature of the way I do things. But anyway, that one's going to be available soon. A bit of local oriented fiction. October Sky. Um, published under the original title Rocket Boys by Homer H. Hickam. Um, Story of several young men attending Big Creek High School in McDowell County, West Virginia, who experiment with model rockets, and eventually the author Homer Hickam winds up working for NASA. But inspired by those adventures he had in amateur rocketry as a teenager in the coal fields of McDowell County, West Virginia. Um, a good read and very popular, particularly locally, since this is a very local interest. Um, in fact, I have had the privilege of having known for many years one of the Rocket Boys, uh, a fine gentleman by the name of Willie Rose. Um, Honor to meet him, but an honor to know him. Uh, but yeah, an excellent read, a memoir, very powerful story, and rightfully adapted into a pretty good movie. Anyway, coming to the bookstore, I try and keep them supplied with this because it's one that tends to go very quickly. One thing I tend to look for when I'm looking for books for the store are books related to adaptations. Um, Always easier to sell a book if it already has a built-in audience. Sometimes people will go to a movie or a TV show because they've read the book. Many times in our culture, though, it's the other way. People see a television show or a film and decide to go backwards and go, hey, this is based on a book or a set of books. And so, they want to experience more of that. And this is two novels by Craig Johnson. Of course, as you can see, they have the Netflix stickers on them because these stories were adapted as the series Longmire for Netflix. I've not read them, but they are very popular, and so obviously these are just some of the things that I have an eye for when I'm out and about because they tend to sell well. Anything that has crossover appeal. These are those. Once again, coming to the bookstore very soon. Uh, Very popular book. Harry Potter, obviously. Second one, I believe. Yes. Chamber of Secrets. In fair condition, but anytime I see Harry Potter out in the wild, if I can get it reasonably cheaply, sometimes even free, I'm going to get it because it's the sort of book that's bread and butter of a used bookstore. Uh, Continues to be very popular, will continually sell, and it's, like I say, just basic product for any used bookstore. Um, any book or set of books that sell millions and millions of copies, you're going to want to have for your store. So I always get them. And following in our theme of adaptations, I found two very nice hard copy Suki Stackhouse novels. And as you can see, once again, has the nice sticker, which tells you, it's the basis of the television show True Blood on HBO. Once again, works of fiction that have a built-in audience based on an adaptation. Many people were reading Suki Stackhouse novels for years and years and years before it became a hit show on HBO, and now oftentimes the reverse is true. Um, People will watch the show, enjoy the show, and want to read more about it. And this one has a nice picture of the author, Charlene Harris. I believe this is the first time I've gotten hardbacks of Suki Stackhouse. I've hauled plenty of paperback editions of those works, but like I said, this is the first time I've gotten hardbacks, very nice ones at that. And as it goes without saying, it's a library sale, so all of this was very, very cheap. Finally, this one, I don't know if it's going to the store or not. It's a Danielle Steele novel, unfortunately without a dust jacket. And just to give you some insight into the way I hunt for the bookstore, um, most of what I've just shown you, in fact, I think all of what I've just shown you, is stuff that I think the store could use that will sell well, that will help bring variety and new product for the store. But I also hunt particular works that customers have come in and requested. And the bookstore has a customer who is trying to complete the full catalog of Danielle Steele's books um, in hardback. And I've been working on that list for a little while now. I've had some success. I think I found, I think the customer had a list of 35 books. The store had 3 on hand immediately, and since then I found 9 more. This would be the 10th. I don't know if it's going to be suitable for that customer, because I have a feeling that the customer's going to want a complete book with a dust jacket. But once again, it's library sale, so it's very, very reasonably priced. So I went ahead and got it just in case. And if not, um, it's always good for further trading or for donation elsewhere. So uh, we'll see. And finally, we're getting down to the 2 books that I'm going to keep. One, I'm sure I will keep as part of my permanent collection, and the other I may read and then donate. But as I said, we were looking at 16 books in this little haul. Um, 14 of those I am not going to keep, or at least will not keep permanently. Um, and 2 probably keep permanently. And that's the exact reverse of one of the last book sales I went to for the Raleigh County Public Library, where it was reversed. I got 2 or 3 books that I donated, and the rest wound up in my permanent collection. The first is a nice trade paperback edition of, you can see this, cover doesn't, the way it's um, formatted might be a little hard to see, but this is the Nick Adams stories by a collection of the short stories by Ernest Hemingway. These stories were my introduction to Hemingway, and they're all centered obviously around his character Nick Adams. Um, and Nick Adams as a character grows from a child to an adolescent to a soldier to a veteran. Many critics believe these are somewhat autobiographical of Hemingway's own experience, but they are extraordinarily good stories, um, and I think show a lot of insight into Hemingway's development as a character. It says on the blurb, Hemingway naturally intended his stories to be understood and enjoyed without regard for considerations of whether they paralleled his life. Um, uh, but Hemingway's obviously a pivotal figure in modern American literature. Eventually won a Nobel Prize. But these were the first Hemingway stories I ever read. Read them in college and was kind of glad to find it again. Um, I hope to reread them very soon when I get a spare moment. But let's say may eventually go back to the bookstore, but I'm certainly going to want to read it first. And the last book I got at the book sale is one that I am certainly going to keep. And it's a book I had not been aware of before. The author is Barbara Tuchman. It is Bible and Sword, the history of England and Palestine from the Bronze Age to Balfour. Uh, Obviously, modern times foundation of the modern nation state of Israel. Barbara Tuchman is one of my favorite historical writers. Writes very readable, beautiful prose, narrative history. I have many of her books. In fact, I've got a shelf just off to this side. Um, uh, I'll just read them real quick. I have The First Salute, which is a book about the Revolutionary War, Proud Tower, The Guns of August, and the Zimmerman Folly, or the Zimmerman Telegram, sorry, which are all books around World War I topics. Um, I have her very, very good book on medieval culture, The Distant Mirror. If you want insights into what medieval history and culture was like in Western Europe, A Distant Mirror is one of the best things you can read. Maybe revisited sometime soon in a video because I think of its inspirational value. Um, uh, she wrote several books about the Second World War, and I have one called Stilwell: The American Experience in China, which is a book about Joseph Stilwell, commander of American forces in the China, Burma, India theater of the Second World War. And finally, her commentary on war as a human pastime, for lack of a better term, The March of Folly. I believe it's from Troy to the modern day. Just talking about and giving the consideration of what a tragic waste war is, how often war is engaged in and created for uh, very wasteful, always tragic, um, and often very unnecessary reasons. Um, One of the great illustrations of human failing and frailty. But as I said, was not aware of this book at all. Will definitely read it, and it's a beautiful copy. I say pristine. So this will probably go on my shelf, and I will be keeping this for as long as I have a library. Um, I don't get rid of Barbara Tuchman, and there are very few other authors that I have that I want to keep. Sometimes I'll upgrade. In fact, a couple of her books I have in mass market paperbacks, and so if I could find this format, if I could find a nice trade paperback, I'd probably upgrade. But that's the only reason I'm going to change out any of those books. Um, but yeah, I can't recommend Barbara Tuchman enough. Just a great author, beautiful prose, so readable, and so informed. very well researched. Uh, as I said, just can't sing the praises of Barbara Tuckman enough. And even that's what I got this past week at the Raleigh County Book Sale. This is the first one I've gone to in 2 or 3 years. In times past, when I've gone, the sales were in the fall, and a couple years ago, uh, they were switched to a spring sale format, and I missed the memo. But in any event, I was glad to get back there this week, and I think had some good hunting. Um, Once again, I'm at a point in life where I'm no longer a book accumulator. I'm more of a book collator. Most of the stuff I get, I'm just passing through with it. Um, but once again, uh, there are a lot of good, valid reasons to collect books. Uh, I would argue the best reason to collect is because you want to read the stuff. Um, but I also get some of the other reasons for collecting books as beautiful objects, for instance. I've got a few of those myself. I appreciate these books because of just the aesthetic quality of them. But in any event, thank you for sharing your time with me. And if you're interested, as I say, in any of this that I've shown you, except for the couple of exceptions I pointed out, please, please, please contact the Hatter Bookstore in Princeton, West Virginia. They're an Amazon affiliate. If you want any of these, they can get them to you. And if you're a customer of the store, feel free to request something that they don't have on stock. It'll go on my list, and I will be out in the world hunting for it. And here lately, I've had a lot of luck finding stuff. Uh, I enjoy doing it. It's a thrill for me. I call it book hunting for a reason because, as I often say, um, if you are a hunter, if you're a big game hunter, and you're intrigued by the thrill of the hunt, that's the kick I get out of finding interesting books out in the wild. But as I said, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.